Welcome back to the Kingsway Podcast.
Welcome. Trevor and I used to have custom-made Kingsway Podcast mugs. And then somebody came like a thief in the night, or one of us
Think about
misplaced
them
them.
every time. I don't know where they
Anyway,
went.
it's been months. If we've put up posters all around town. If you see my missing mug, contact my phone number at Gmail. So we have new ones in the mail, but for right now, we have these temporary ones. The coffee in them is so hot that the stickers are coming off.
Yeah.
So if you can comment the timestamp that the first sticker falls off the first cup,
Yep,
you'll
there
get
you
a
go.
free
Who will be
high
better at
five.
podcasting is whose sticker stays on or whose comes off first.
Yeah.
Well, it's March. We got to do another book.
It is March, so we should probably finish our February book.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, we've been a little behind this year, but
We're trying to catch up.
we're catching up.
Mainly, I'm just letting Ryan read books that I've already read, so that way we're caught up real fast.
I'm going to fix that. I'm excited about our book for next month, but I'm not going to tell you until the end of the episode.
Yep, you got to stick around. It's also an intentional book, and if anybody chose to read it, it'd be good, especially maybe for Easter.
Yes, our next book is going to line up with Easter
Yep.
pretty well.
I will say before we get into this month's book, I had another person come and say they'd read last month's book,
You Are Not Your Own.
and they really enjoyed it. And they said the same thing we said. They had texted me about 75% through the book and was like, "This is not fun."
Can I be done
And
now?
I was like, "Finish it." So they said the ending was really, really good and was worth it. But
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, that's about where I was at."
To
when I
those
was
people who made it most of the way through the book, here's my advice to you. In the words of AC/DC, you can't have your pudding until you eat your meat. Got to make it to the end of the book.
telling you. Sometimes I think that's a rarity.
Or it's the other way around. I don't remember. I don't know how British cuisine works.
I think sometimes in our culture we have to like sprinkle in dessert, and this is a book that just that was a book that did not do that. It did not.
That book is a well done steak. You gotta chew, and your jaw hurts. You're like, I wish they could cook my jaw to medium rare so it'd at least be soft.
I feel like if I really said what it is, it's a this is like too technical, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
Sure.
It's a T-bone steak, and the like sirloin side is overcooked, but the fillet side is perfect. Problem is it's about 75% overdone sirloin, but the last little bit, some really good, well done pieces of fillet. All right, I know if you know, you know. All right.
I don't know. I keep getting tricked every time. It's like a birthday or anniversary or whatever. Hey, let's go out and get a nice dinner. You should try this really great prime rib.
No.
Prime rib is Arby's roast beef. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove to me that I'm wrong. I've never had a prime rib that doesn't taste like Arby's roast beef. Just one chunk of roast beef.
So roast beef at Arby's, I think, is a brisket cut very, very thinly, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But it doesn't taste like brisket. It doesn't taste like
Tastes
roast
like prime
beef.
rib.
It doesn't. It does, but it's like not the texture
What's
you're looking
good about prime rib? It's not most of it. It's maybe the outside a little.
And that was a good podcast, Ryan. We'll go ahead.
Oh, okay. See you next. What? That wasn't the end of it. That's John Cena's walk-in
Well, that's
song.
what you just did to prime rib.
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing the outro. Yeah. Why would I get prime rib when ribeye exists?
No, I think you're hitting on maybe
Checkmate.
what is a hot topic, maybe a hot take. I'm not a prime rib guy. I definitely am like, I'm a really good. I've learned how to cook a steak that I absolutely love, and I have no problem saying that it's probably better than most steaks offered by people that I don't know. I've had some good steaks from people that I do know.
Yeah.
But people that I don't know probably cannot cook a better steak than what I can cook at home. And that's not me trying to be arrogant. That's like me hard years of mistakes.
Labor.
Figure that out. Now, I can't afford them anymore because,
Yeah.
life.
Just figure out how to cook the same thing out of ground chicken.
Listen, we've like done the like like we do pork/beef, ground beef now. I don't know if you've seen that. A lot less money, and it's been, I mean, it was healthy, but it's just as good. Yeah. So it's a lot cheaper.
Well, hope you like this episode. And,
actually, we got to get to the book we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
It's a book that I've loved for years. Love the author, read a number of the things he's written, and enjoy a lot of his pastoral work, but as well as a number of different things that he's also referenced in. I read the Ragamuffin Gospel back in college, and what's crazy is I read like Blue Like Jazz and Love Wins, and like some of, like, I would say like some of those books that were maybe on the fringe of being things that you're like, oh, if you read that and you really, really liked it, be careful. And like, you're not sure if you're in or you're out. And it was a lot of like controversy. And I would say that like year.
The other books you mentioned, sort of fair. Blue Like Jazz guy, was that Donald Miller? Not a Christian anymore.
Yep.
Rob Bell, hard to say he's a Christian anymore.
Yep.
It's not a lot of distinguishing factors.
And where I was going with that is it makes it really hard because that gets pulled into that genre. And so why I loved this book was this was kind of the author of Ragamuffin Gospel's memoir. And so it was kind of his whole story. And unlike some of those other books that came out that are a little bit more controversial, that didn't have endings, that I don't know if the memoirs would be as exciting to read. Obviously, because of endings of the authors at this point. But the thing that struck me with this was I really did want a picture of what it would look like to try to be in ministry, doing what God has called you to do, figuring out, you know, your understanding of who God is, the Bible is, all this stuff, and then be in your 70s and still having the conversation, which is basically when he wrote this book.
He wrote it, he said near the end of the book, he wrote it near the end of his life. He doesn't know when he's going to die, but he said he like needs help to change the volume on the baseball game on TV. He needs help to go buy ice cream or pizza. He needs help to write this book. So
he's pretty old. I think one of the things I had heard is he was in his 70s when he was writing this. So like he's not a young man, let's just say that. And so I think the reflections of this book are healthy for me, or were healthy and are healthy because of myself starting ministry probably when I was right around 20 and now being twice
more
that age.
That. At least 21 by now.
So I think that it was helpful to think about what it would be like to be looking back on like 50 years of ministry. And how that would kind of be a unique perspective.
He talks a lot about his ministry, and I really didn't know anything about him. You've read this book before and other stuff by him. I didn't know anything about him except for that he had to preach with Billy Graham at crusades. He doesn't mention Billy Graham in this entire book.
Nope.
So I was just waiting for the one thing that I already knew and never found it. But I was sort of expecting like, I was a prominent speaker for a lot of my life. And that's sort of true. I didn't know he was a Catholic priest. I didn't know he was defrocked because of marriage. Like he got married, and Catholic priests, at least in the Franciscan tradition, but I think all of them aren't supposed to be married. I didn't know about a lot of that. I didn't know about his like spiritual retreats, about his ties to Richard Rohr and the Enneagram and a lot of that.
His life is like, it's not quite like Forrest Gump, but it feels like you could do it in chapters, but it would feel like a complete life of a person.
And then it does feel like Forrest Gump in that way, where it's like, 3 years is up, time to be a different person.
Exactly. Where you're like, this is nuts. Like, so the book is called All Is Grace. It's by a guy named Brennan Manning. You've already seen the title. You know that. I think why I come back to this book is some of the themes of it. And I am curious because I've read it, I think 3 times. I was looking back at my Audible, and sometimes it'll tell you. But I have like, where you're like, oh, I'm like 10 minutes left. And you're like, oh, I read this. And it'll tell you the last time you listened to it. And I was like, oh, I listened to this a year and a half ago and I forgot. Like I had listened to it again. And I had read it the first time when it first came out. Brennan and I definitely have some very similarities to some of the questions that we ask deep in our faith. There's definitely a lot of similarities to the way that he ponders through God and some of the deep, I think, pains and anguish that he has at times, deep personal convictions, but also deep personal issues where it's like, golly, man, why can't I not knock this off or figure this out or, solve this problem? I think I'm naturally a rebel at heart in my mind. And so some of this stuff is like, not that I want to experience everything that he's experienced, or I think I want to do some of the same things that he's done in any way. But I also feel like there's like a level of like, I've had thoughts where like, what if that happened? And to see somebody still fight through faith or to figure it out was helpful. I'm kind of curious, like, you don't have a background with this guy. I did, and I still do. I haven't kept as close of track lately of where he's at, so I really don't know if he's passed away or if where he's at in his life now.
Brennan?
Brennan. So
he's dead.
I didn't know. So it's like legitimately.
I'm assuming.
Give me
1 second to look that up.
I haven't looked that up recently. I don't know if it's something that obviously when someone stops writing things or is on podcasts or stops producing, like there's a level of like, has that happened?
Yeah, he died in April of 2013.
There you go.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to assume somebody in their early 70s just is going to die in the next 10 years, but I was thinking that that's what had happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But again.
So All His Grace was published in 2011. That would have been 2 years before he passed.
Yep. Which sounds about right when you read the end of the book, where you can just tell I think there was even a progression as the book is written that you can tell there's a little bit of like his health is fading by the end. Like he's obviously not maybe in the best place by the end of the book. Yeah. And anytime you write a memoir, I think if you read Eugene Peterson's The Pastor, it's the same thing. Like, that there's like a level of like, you start this out with a great passion. And I think anytime you go to write your memoirs, I think it always takes longer than you think because you're like, wow, my life has kind of, especially if you've been alive for a good amount of time. Yeah. So anyway, I'm curious, like, what were your thought processes? Like, what were you thinking as you're reading this? Because obviously you and I have talked about it. I've quoted it. It's definitely been something that.
I think this book is one of the greatest evidences for why somebody should go to counseling. Not just this guy's broken, but listening to how he talks about his childhood and the things that were important to him or the things he was afraid of, the things he was avoiding, talking about his parents. I feel like people who haven't been through counseling or at least haven't had a good experience in counseling usually think about it like either it's time for me to fess up to all the worst, darkest things about me and then be sad about it and ashamed. Yep. And that's it. Or it's time for me to hate my parents because that's the job of a counselor is to be the devil's advocate against your parents or whatever. I watched him throughout this book have a lot of grace for his mom and his dad, even as they had done and been bad parents to him. And I mean bad parents as in lashing out and whatever, but even in the stuff that they thought was good, kind of malformative to where like the whole like children are meant to be seen and not heard idea. I don't remember if he says that in the book, but how like you aren't supposed to have your own feelings or thoughts or whatever, rather than you should have them under control and not be perpetually driven by them. That's good and healthy, but you are not allowed to have them is
definitely
not healthy.
I'm curious. I'm curious because like some of the stuff that I think of in the book, like that is not something that pops out to me. Like that is not something that popped out to me at all when I read. But now that you mention it, I can remember it. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's a lot of that, and talking about how he even mentions maybe about 2/3 of the way through the book how he, no matter how much the stuff his mom did hurt him, he doesn't blame her because she's also a survivor of that from her parents. Yep. And she probably gave a less harsh version of that. And it was still malformatively harsh to define malformative. It's like transformative is like you change from one thing to another. Malformative is like you change from one thing to be worse.
Yeah.
So adopting a puppy from the Humane Society.
Yeah.
If they were just like the dog we had growing up, we adopted her from the Humane Society. They rescued her from a house of 70 dogs. That dog's relationship with water was malformed in her early
Yeah, because she probably couldn't get enough.
Her puppyhood or whatever. She always, anytime she saw water, would drink it all as fast as she could. She'd oftentimes not hold it down super well.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to fight and scrounge and get in there early. She had to hope that she got the water early enough that the bigger, more powerful dogs wouldn't. She'd get enough before they come in to push her out of the way.
Yep.
So we, her loving owners and caretakers and whatever, would have to give her only certain amounts of water or a bunch of water and then pull her away from it. And that's almost the same behavior as the dogs who stole her water as a puppy. But we're actually looking out for her. And so, like, how confusing is that for a dog? How much more confusing is some of the behaviors that kids learn at a young age that keep you safe?
Yeah.
So, like, I listened to a school counselor one time who's done research and given talks and whatever, talk about how when he was a school counselor at an elementary school, so they have kindergartners, a kindergartner got sent to the principal's office, but talk to the counselor first, for clocking their teacher. Well, what happened? The teacher came up behind the student and tapped him on the shoulder. And they turned around and punched that teacher in the jaw. And he had to convince the principal not to expel this student because he said, what you saw is inappropriate for the classroom. But that may have been life-saving behavior for that kid up until this point.
Yeah.
How confusing is it that an adult has their best intention at heart?
Yeah.
So, like, that kind of behavior, him talking about that with his mom, with his brother, with his dad. And then, so talking about that woundedness and that, like, how do I avoid disaster? How do I stay safe? And then on the other side, talking about the thing he most desperately wants. This phrase he brought up a good handful of times. More desperately than anything, wanting to hear, hey, I like you. Want to play with me as a kid? And how he brought that up with him falling in love with his wife and then being defrocked by the Catholic Church for wanting to marry her and then eventually marrying her is like how much of a blessing it was from God to have this woman mean the same thing as, hey, I like you, want to play with me?
Yeah.
And not in any creepy way. For adults, it does sound kind of creepy. But just in like I see you as a person, I like you from what I see. Do you want to spend time together? Do you want to, like, stick with each other? Just that was such a blessing. And talking about his relationship with God and how God showing him grace after some of his episodes of alcoholism and homelessness. He only really fessed up to alcoholism, but he said he, near the end of the book, talking about an episode of homelessness while being a Catholic priest, and said he broke all the 10 commandments like 6 times over. I'm assuming that means he stole.
Yeah.
And that means he, like, slept with people as a current Catholic priest at the time. So, like...
And I think he says at the very end of the book, too, he would still be an alcoholic if he could go and get it. Like, he's like, I would go and get the alcohol right now, but I can't. Yeah. I'm incapable of going and getting alcohol. And so he'd have to have somebody bring it to him. Yeah. Or at least he says, I would fear that I would be if I had the ability or the freedom. I think that's part of the reason why I think it's fun when someone else reads something that hits you. And it's not that, and it's very similar to the Bible, I feel like sometimes. It's not that the context or like what the Bible is teaching or what the book is saying is seen by one person as different than the other. It's like what that truth does to get into your life or where it hits you in your current circumstances or how you view that really matters. Because to me, the theme was not necessarily the wound of the parents or like, hey, do you want to play with me? It was more of the like wound that he could never heal, that God's grace was the only way that he was ever going to feel lovable. Yeah. And so no matter if he was in a position of influence in the church or he was married or he was homeless or he was living this like basically like as someone that had nothing, you know, in like this liturgical way in Europe with like a band of 5 guys that he didn't own a possession and he's just trying to serve in this community.
The thing that stuck out to me to tie what you're saying to what I was saying about his parents and how he grew up is that his example of parents growing up was a mom who worked hard and a dad who was always looking for work.
Yeah.
And so he would describe his dad just walking around town and then coming home after a long day. And did you find any work? No, not today, and whatever. And how like I don't think he talked much about this, but you catch it from his behavior and how he talks about his mom and his dad. The implicit shame that his dad, at least must have been thrown on his dad, whether or not his dad felt it because he didn't talk enough about that. But how to be a worthwhile person, he should have made something of himself. To be a worthwhile person, his brother made something of himself. He was tough. He could fight. He was like not one to be messed with. He was a person because of that. And his dad was like a ghost, kind of haunting the streets of their city or their town or whatever. Yeah. And so Brennan, you watch him throughout his life, every couple years, maybe 10 years at the most in one place, picking a new thing, being a new person. He's with the Little Brothers of Christ or whatever, the like vow of poverty kind of Catholic order. Yep. And then he's in New Orleans or Louisiana somewhere and at that like church startup thing and whatever. He's just bouncing around all the time. He talks later in the book about how he's an Enneagram type 4. I say that to say he's always looking for a way to be shiny. Yep. He's always looking for a way to be special. He's always looking for something like that. And never finding anything that satisfies in career, in whatever, in speaking engagements, in spiritual retreat. He finds moments, extended moments of spiritual discipline, spiritual formation kind of stuff to curb that desire and to find satisfaction in God. And then he's out of there and he drinks. And then he's out of there and he whatever. There's this perpetual level of suffering of like, I'm not enough of a person, or I deserve better, or I need to maintain this to be worthwhile, or whatever. Something like that. And when his efforts don't solve it, he goes back to the bottle and
or he just goes back to changing careers or finding something else shiny. Because I don't always think it's running to something that's destructive by our standards.
Sometimes it's something that's good.
Or sometimes it's just something that you would think is good. Like he's like, this is actually a positive change in my life. Because that's the thing that haunts me about this book is like if you didn't know he drank, or if you didn't know that he had some negative consequences, it would look like someone that was really trying hard to be used by God. It felt very similar to You Are Not Your Own in the way that his life played out. Yeah. But the whole time he was missing the last quarter of the book. Yeah. That's what it does when I was re-listening and just listening to some summarizations and reviews, because I was trying to remind myself, but then remind myself of some of the key points and going back and re-listening. And some of the things I always loved about the book was like he would like chase the feeling of the gospel almost. Yeah. He would chase the feeling of the first time you heard God loves you, he cares about you, and there's grace. And he would almost have to put himself in positions where it'd have to be true. You know, like he would put himself in speaking positions where if God didn't show up, it wouldn't go well. And he would put himself in personal positions where if grace didn't show up, he would be dead, gone. And it was crazy.
It's the moment that sticks out the most is the one near the end of the book where he's trying to tell this story joke thing that he's told 100 times, and he just can't remember the punchline in front of a crowd of people at a speaking engagement. And he's pretty old at this point. And he just like stumbles and stutters and goes, I'm sorry, I don't remember, or whatever. And the people stand and applaud for him, and it's kind of like dissonant and weird for him. It's a moment of grace, but it's also just like, I thought I had that under control. Yeah. Not just, I didn't have that under control, I went to the drink, or I don't feel shiny, I need to go to a new thing. But like my basic control over life is now being threatened. And still, God shows his love for me and these people around me.
Yep. I think that's the part of the book that I love the most is, in some ways, this book made me feel like this is my absolute dream. Yeah. This type of stuff. And this is my absolute nightmare of what would happen to me. And in both cases, what he declares is the grace of God is still just as true.
Yeah.
and you need it just as much, and it's just as necessary, no matter. And I think why it blows my mind is it's not a fictional account. It's not something that someone's like, God's grace would be good enough if you did this. And
for
then
a hypothetical guy who did all this.
This is a real person, probably in hospice or a nursing home or in some sort of care at the end of his life, looking back and going, I can't believe the only thread that's consistent in this whole thing, regardless of my parents, regardless of my upbringing, regardless of my choices, regardless how many people I led to Christ or how hedonistic I got or how whatever. It's God's grace is the only thing that pulled me through. And his poem at the very end of the book is like my favorite part. I remember listening to that the first time in the car and then going and looking it up online because I was like, I need to physically see this.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've reflected on multiple times in my life and just thought about it. And it's not something I memorized or like I haven't completely I would say like put into my thoughts, but it's just reflecting on all these things that are sad or true or good and it's just the God of grace is just sitting behind it. Like you don't understand how much you need grace. What did you think around the concept? Because here's the thing, the book does, I think, try to make some conclusions about the Christian narrative. And I was curious if like you found it to be convincing, not convincing, or not fully fleshed out, or if you're like, I don't know if that's, I would sit with that because this is a person that like, if you're learning from them, you have to admit they're not the perfect role model as you're as you're learning from them.
Yeah. I don't know. All is grace is a phrase that sounds similar to like Richard Rohr has a phrase, maybe he took it from someone else, but everything belongs. And I think those are poetically helpful phrases, but those aren't laws of God's universe. So here's an example. With both everything belongs, which is a good and helpful phrase, and all is grace.
That's a Corey Asbury song, by the way.
It is also that. He stole it from Richard. In both of those phrases, there's an implication of those that is not true. So all is grace. Is it grace that he was an alcoholic? No. It did lead him to grace, but alcoholism from his family tree, from his like own experience, was not grace to him. It was not a gift of God's love, but it did lead him to the gift of God's love. It drove him there the same way that in Matthew 4, the Holy Spirit drove Jesus into the wilderness. Yeah. It was a like thing that pushed him to a new place, and that place was God's grace. But the actual like experience of that alcohol wasn't. I could go a lot further with this, but I'll just go one step further. People who have experienced abuse, I'm going to leave it at that blanket statement. People who have experienced abuse from a parent, from a spouse, from a friend, from somebody, that abuse was not, I can definitively say, was not grace. That abuse does not belong. And at the same time, Romans 8:28, God is working all things for good, for the good of those who love him, or something like that. I messed up that phrase a little bit. But anyway, there's nothing so powerful that God cannot work through it.
For his purpose.
For his purpose, for your good, for all that kind of stuff. To transform you into the image of Jesus, to provide for all your needs, to comfort you, to care for you, to heal you, to make you into a new person. And at the same time, God did not hope and wish and joyfully give you abuse from somebody. But he can absolutely work in it.
He can work through it. He's not wielding it.
Yes. And so all is grace. Is every single thing grace? No. But there can be grace found through everything. You can have a negative, harmful God. I don't want to say God absent, but like God almost certainly is not like, I'm so glad that they were hurt.
Yeah, and
God's super emotional in the Old Testament, in the New Testament. He's not indifferent or wrongly emotioned, happy at your like abuse.
And this is why I think it's really important to bring this up, because this is why the title and why the phrase matters to me. Not because I agree with that or want that to even be true. I think what I hear when I hear all is grace is anything where you experience God's love and the full life that God's offered, it's only going to be accepting that there is grace waiting for you as you walk into that. And I think with his story, it's either I had so much crap happen to me, there's no way I can actually ever be healthy, or I've done so much good, I thought maybe that would earn myself to get in there. And I think on both sides, he had to realize that it was grace that saved him from what could have ruined him. And it was grace that rescued him from times his own brokenness. And so I think what he was realizing is that all is grace. It's been that way since I was a child. And it's been that way my whole life as I've tried to ruin the gifts that God has even given me.
Yeah.
And
that's where I think it's true. For any of the super cerebral, logical kind of people listening, I want to cut the red wire on that bomb. We aren't saying, and I don't even think Brennan is saying, everything is good.
And even the Corey Asbury song, I don't think when he quotes Richard is saying that. I think he's saying God can work through all of that stuff. Just trust that God is working through all that stuff.
Even in the phrase everything belongs, all the same arguments can pretty much be made for that. But it's more saying that like everything is there. You can't do anything to make something not belong. It has fallen into place. And God is still good, and God can still heal you from it and whatever. And so those can be really useful and helpful phrases for you and your relationship with God. But don't try to be smarter than the poetry and change the genre and turn the poetry into fact or formula or whatever. Is this something? Well, then it is grace. No, it's not the point of it. But like, all is grace. All is an avenue to grace. All is whatever that could mean that is true and good and helpful is what it means.
And I think that's why I find a book as a pastor, but then also as just a personal follower of Jesus, to be comforting, but also like helpful to reality of what the Christian walk can feel like. I think I've read of a lot of books where I hate to say it, but it would be kind of the first half of Alan Noble's book, where it's like, hey, you learn these Christian techniques, and by the time you get done with this book, you will have figured out how to avoid all of these possible wounds from your parents, all these possible things that you could do to ruin your life, and you'll have set up all these parameters so that grace won't be needed anymore.
Yeah.
And I think when I got to the end of his book and he said all is grace, I realized no matter what I achieve, no matter how many techniques I learn, there's never going to be a day that all of this is not going to be the opportunity that's provided by grace.
Yeah.
And
I think that may be a better way to phrase what I was trying to say about it.
Yeah.
All the good things in my life are by grace.
Yep. They're provided by grace. Yeah.
So like a lot of the times we hear in the New Testament, we're preaching through Romans right now, not by works, but by faith or whatever, that like all my belonging is by God's grace, not because I've done anything.
Yep.
All my salvation is by God's grace. All my transformation is by God's grace. All my forgiveness is by God's grace. All the good, loving relationships in my life are by God's grace. And so like I've talked about this a little bit before, but accurately keeping score for God.
Yeah.
Rather than being a paid off ref or a paid off judge, constantly marking the negative things and accepting cash under the table to not actually count the score up right. No, the air I'm breathing right now is God's grace.
Yeah. And I love this concept, but I want to play devil's advocate with you, because I don't know if I completely love everything about this book.
Yeah.
And not that I don't think that there are incredible things that have been really helpful at times in nurturing. I would say his book has been very pastoral to me, like helpful in a way of just like, hey, don't worry, things can't be so bad before that God can't show up. Don't worry, you can't screw up things so bad in the future that God's grace can't find you.
Yeah.
Like that was super helpful. The thing that I've learned in my life that is the same thing I pushed back a little bit in Alan Noble's book, where there are times where I know God's grace is true, but I wonder if the cognitive or the heart level of understanding that is not necessarily always going to be the first step to discipline. So it's the concept of like, I sometimes just need to do the thing that actually looks like I believe grace is true far before I believe it or really feel it.
And I think you're totally right. I remember maybe in youth group or maybe like first year of college, somebody like talking about how it's a lot easier to see God in the past than it is in the present. Mm-hmm. And so even in your own past, so this is a memoir he's writing in his 70s, it's a lot easier to see God's grace in his own past rather than in his present as he lived all those moments. We called it in that youth sermon or first year of college or whatever, something like Jesus photobombing or whatever, where it's like, in the moment, you can't see the person behind you holding up the 2-finger bunny ears behind your head. But looking back at the picture once it's developed.
Like, Jesus has been there the whole time. Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was there. Mm-hmm. That's where he was. Yeah. In the moment, you're kind of blind to it because you don't have the perspective of the camera. You don't have the perspective of your memory of the past. And so I totally agree that like the reason I like the phrase all is grace or everything belongs is how grounding it is to be like, all of my striving, all of my work right now to try to be faithful to God is faithfulness. It's not effectiveness. I'm trusting God with the effectiveness. I'm trusting God to be my grace when I mess up. I'm trusting God for all of these things. And I'm just doing the next right thing. I'm taking the next right step to the best of my ability. And if I hear God say something else, I'd love to do something else and follow him there. But like, it's a good grounding phrase to be like, you can trust that God has grace for you right now. Even if you don't see it or know it, you might be able to see it or know it for this moment later looking backwards.
Absolutely.
Better than right now.
You know this too. Like your faith can fluctuate days, weeks, months, years, depending on sickness, brokenness, economic situations, stresses around you, times of celebration and joy. Like your faith can be way more dictated on how you feel about it, determined by those things that are outside. It's the clear, like, are your eyes on Jesus or the storm? Like, is your eyes on the things going right or Jesus? Like, you can be distracted by both, right? And not realize that Jesus is the common denominator of the whole thing. And I think that's part of what I think the book, I wish there was a little bit more of in his life moments where he goes, yeah, I felt really this way from what my parents did. And man, I really had some habits that were negative, but I just chose before I believed or knew completely that God really loved me. And even before I felt it, I chose to just wake up and to do this, to walk in that and to trust it. And there's not a whole lot in that. Ending. Right? Oh, wait. I'm so sorry. Too soon. No, it's been 14 years. Probably not too soon. However,
there are kids in our youth group who were born after he died.
That's so scary. Yeah, I don't like that. But also,
he died the year I graduated high school.
I was looking at a photo of my wife pregnant this morning because it's on our wall in our bedroom, and I was thinking, that's 12 years old because Jace is 2, and that's not fun. That's not fun at all. That guy's got a lot of hair.
Who's that Bob Ross guy?
Exactly. I was like, that guy's got a lot of hair on that, but he's got a hairstyle. He even has enough hair to put gel in it. Like. No, but you're right. Like, I think there is like a level of like, hey, I don't think we get to write our lives in reverse or complete with clarity in the moment. I think we have to be disciplined enough. Obviously you're a little bit more cerebral and like the way that you think is, I would call it more academic.
Professor X, whatever you want to
say. I feel way more like a Barnabas than I do a Paul. And a lot of the things, like I see people first before like the postulate of what's being declared. And so like the postulate of what's being declared about God is like, I have to remind myself that like that's important because the people around me, and that means that I'm probably more prone to people pleasing. I'm probably more prone to like caring about what people think or what people feel naturally. Now, as I get older, I feel like you get a little more cynical and you're like, I don't really care as much.
Yeah.
But I think that is something that I've learned to kind of, even with my kids or my marriage, like have to have moments where I'm like, this would be really easy to make you happy right now. But if I did that probably wouldn't be best for the relationship, nor is it true for what's best for the relationship. And I don't think our faith is inept from that. I don't think our faith is separated from that. The big thing that it says that I think is worth just declaring about the book is it basically says your growth or the spiritual thing that it's trying to teach you is growth spiritually oftentimes is started by admitting that you need grace and that God loves you. And there's a lot of times in the book where you can tell there are plateaus that he hits, and that grace and that love and that belief that God likes him has to make it to his life, like has to get to his brain, to his heart. It has to click in order for spiritual growth to happen. And that seems to be something that is just a cycle in his life over and over again. I don't think that's wrong. I just, again, would say, like, I don't think that's always the only way that spiritual growth can sometimes happen. I think sometimes we can stumble into a routine and not even completely understand what God is doing, and it's revealed to us later. I think sometimes relationships, things that we learn in the Bible, things that we understand, aren't completely revealed to us until time goes by a little bit, if that makes sense. And so I think there's a level of, like, I don't know if revelation of complete understanding is necessary for always spiritual formation. I think it's definitely helpful. But much like sometimes you can be taught something by a teacher, or you can be exposed to something without completely understanding it, but kind of trusting that that's maybe something worth putting your time into. And then as you do it and you see that it reveals its truthfulness or usefulness, then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is obviously what God has been leading me to. And I think there's layers to that completely, where you can kind of have routines in your life that you didn't even know the full benefits of until later, where you're like, wow, that was actually layers effective. And I think spiritually is no different. I think there's different ways that you can kind of get spiritual things in by it. And that what I mean by that is, like, you don't have to completely believe God loves you and that you're covered by grace and that he likes you in order to pray and to see God truly respond to you and be a part of your life. You don't have to believe all that stuff fully in the moment to read, I think, the Bible and to have it be effective or helpful in your life. I do think that there are later revelations of that or understandings of that are helpful to those moments. But that would definitely be something that I would have agreed on a lot more probably 8 to 10 years ago. And now I've kind of maybe turned the corner a little bit on that and said, hey, discipline has sometimes built-in benefits that don't always take complete cerebral understanding. And so I think sometimes some healthy habits around some spiritual formation is just good without the heart completely understanding the heart of God.
Yeah.
What are you looking up over there?
I'm trying to find that poem at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Trying my hardest, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it.
I think I took a picture of it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the picture.
Okay, that's fine. Here's my last thought.
Yeah.
This book really aligned with one of my favorite parts of my master's degree. I got an MA in formative worship, and we did a lot of historical and whatever stuff about worship. Learned a lot of big, smart brain things. At the beginning of that degree, we were sat down in our first class, and they were like, if you're going to be useful at all, you need to know that God loves you. You might have just heard me say, you need to understand or comprehend that God loves you. No, you need to know. You need to believe that God loves you, that he actually loves you. Otherwise, all this is for nothing. Like, you're selling people something that you don't even have. You need to believe that God loves you. That's what this book felt like to me. So
I definitely feel that on a guttural level, having been somebody that's been in pastoral ministry a long time. When I sit across from somebody and they're asking deep, hard questions, or when I'm trying to teach somebody something about God, if I don't feel the closeness of a relationship with God, or I feel like my relationship with God is fractured or distant or in a difficult place, I feel the like, hey, we need to get right. Like, we need to figure this out before you do this too much, because it's going to hurt too much. Like, you're going to be pretending rather than postulating as loyal, real, true. And that doesn't always mean my relationship with God is perfect. I actually think it's more how real and how honest have I been with God lately. Not have I just ignored it, pretended, I think that's more of the reality that I've found is it's not necessarily that like your relationship with God has to be perfect all the time. It's more of like, have you had honest moments with God lately enough to where you're quoting God right now and talking about God, but you haven't talked to him or had an honest moment with him in a while. And so, and I've had those moments where all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you to do something that I myself have not done in a while. And that is like soul fracturing, if I'm being honest. Like those are the moments where I feel least called or most convicted. But I also have the opposite where I'm like, no, with confidence, not from something I learned in Bible college, not with something I've heard repeated in the church, not with something I just heard online, not with a book that I just read, but like with personal conviction. I can tell you it is individual. The relationship is so individual if you allow it to be. And what I mean by that is not like secret knowledge or mysterious stuff that like you yourself know, but like where you feel God is with you and personally connected to you and loves you and a part of you. Not just like this huge church thing or like this God so loved the world, but like you are in the world. Like you're one of the ones that he was thinking about. And I think that is a conviction that only comes when you've done the honest work, where you've accepted the grace, shall we say. But then also where you've done it enough to where you can hear the voice. I think there's just a part of that. So I hope that if you've read this or thought about reading that it piques your interest. I know this is something I've probably brought up since we started this podcast. Yeah. Probably half a dozen times. So,
and I'm glad I can quench that.
Yeah. Now it'll never be brought up again. Now you'll be like, nope, you're recording that wrong. Let me get this right.
His name's actually Brennan Manning.
Also, we now get to intro our next book, which
it is this book. If you're looking, I don't actually have the book. This is same author, similar cover. So ignore that. Our book for March. Ignore that it's already the early mid-March.
Shh, it's in March. It's in March.
Our book for March, leading up to Easter. It's going to be N.T. Wright. I know that was her like least favorite book last year.
Yeah, but we're doing this intentionally.
Yeah, this one's going to be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're all good, and N.T. Wright's very smart, and whatever. Anyway, our book is Surprised by Hope by N.T. Wright. There's a subtitle. I don't have it in front of me. But I think it's going to be really good and powerful and really helpful as we start thinking about Easter stuff.
Yeah, I was listening to a sermon 2 or 3 weeks ago. No, this last week by one of the guys I went to school with. His name's Braden. And he has a really cool church called Reckoning.
Braden Manning?
It's not. It's Braden Etchison. But he was talking about how there's so many times that we're surprised by things that we're no longer surprised by that we should be. Yeah. And one of the things he talked about is that spring comes back every year. He's like, we should be surprised by that. Like everything dies, everything gets cold. Like if we hadn't been around enough times, we'd be like, this is the end. There's no hope.
We're in the end times.
This is it. Like it's over, but yet every year the plants grow back and the weather gets warm and the birds. And he's like, we're not surprised by it anymore. It's crazy. If you took a time hop from this time in, you'd be like, this is going to happen. Like everybody would be like, no way. But because it happens every day, he's like, the sunrise is the same thing. Every day you should be like, man, alive, this is over. The sun's gone. The warmth's gone. The light's gone. We're not going to be able to make it. Yeah. And then it comes back. And he's like, the hope that is in those cycles is something that I think creation cries out to be surprised by more hope. So I'm excited to read this because I think it's inside that cycle around Easter that we can just get used to just saying things around hope that we're like, yeah. But hopefully we're surprised a little bit by some of the things we learn. I'm excited to be challenged.
When we put that episode out, comment how many times you gasped.
No.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, if you watch this long, I'm proud of you, and like the video, leave us a comment if you want us to.
If you didn't like the video, see ya.
Sorry, Mom. As always, leave a review if you're listening to it on a podcast. Let us know if there's something that you're reading right now that you think we'd like. Always interested to see if anybody else is reading a book or something that you're going to be a part of, or we could read and comment on. Let us know if you've read the books that we were recommending or something. Feel free to come and talk to us if you're a part of Kingsway. Let us know you read it. I always love hearing people that are reading the books, even if you don't agree. That's even some of my favorite. If I'm like,
love to talk about
it. Help me. So
hopefully we aren't only reading books we agree with. 100%.
No, I think actually reading some of the stuff on the Always Grace and stuff, I'm like, it's a little different.
So we're going to read Surprised by Hope. Trevor's going to pick one for April. I already know my pick for May. Trevor's going to pick one for June. And then in July, I'm going to have us read a very special book, The Communist Manifesto, but Tony Hawk gets to keep all his stuff. It's a real book.
That is...
I'm kidding. I'm not
that is a ridiculous title.
I just want to have read that. I want that to be on my shelf. I want that to be on my mantle.
I feel like whoever wrote that title, it was like they put 7 things into a generator and they're like, make a title out of this.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening. As always, check out the rest of our catalog of things. There's so many cool and interesting conversations we've had already on the podcast. There's other books on there. If you're looking for something, you can go back and look at our catalog from last year and maybe check out the one from earlier this year. And as always, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Have a great and glorious day in the Lord. We'll see you later.
See ya.